Hi, my name's Connor. I'm going to show how to use Conte in a little demonstration. I know a lot of you are new to the medium. It's a great medium to work with. It has all the nice flexibility of something like charcoal, but when you actually put it on the page and then it doesn't actually just go everywhere. So it's really nice to work with because of that. Okay, so first things first. What kind of Conte? I would strongly recommend this brand. Conte is not the same as graphite crayons or charcoal bars or anything like that. It's its own thing. And this brand in particular, I found that the other brands have a different consistency. They're more chalky. This has been around for a long time, and it's the brand to go to. So I would recommend that. That's Conte à Paris. Now, first thing you should do is they come in these long sticks. You're going to want to snap that in half immediately to something like, more like this. But then when you have this and you go to draw it as a bar, holding it on its side, it does this sort of pattern, which is not what you want. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take that sharp edges and you're going to grind it down by just doing that a whole bunch. Eventually it should look like this, much more rounded. And then when you go to draw it on its side, you get a nice smooth tone and you don't have to worry about that weird line effect. Second thing you're going to need is a kneaded eraser. You can use like a white eraser or even like those old pink school erasers, but they will tend to tear the page, and kneaded erasers are just a lot nicer to work with. You can get sort of a gradated tone with them. Just a whole lot easier to work with, and they're like the same price, so just get yourself a kneaded eraser. Now, most people will recommend using newsprint. The reason they do that is because it is cheap. There isn't really anything special about it. If you want to use fancier paper or paper with a different tooth to it, go ahead. It's not really a big deal. I like using newsprint because it's cheap, and I go through a lot of it. All right, so once you have your Conte and your paper and your eraser, you're going to hold it properly. It's not a pencil. Do not treat it like a pencil. Doing this, no. You're going to hold it on its side. You're going to hold it at the opposite end of where you're drawing with, and you're going to like lever it to control the pressure. You get the hang of this, and don't drop it because it'll smash into like tiny little pieces, and you'll end up just with a whole bunch of garbage. So do be careful. So first thing I would recommend doing is to get used to it is just do warm-ups like this. Just make big tones, do like tornadoes, squiggles, whatever. Practice doing different weights of line, big areas of tone, like sort of like somewhere between a line and a tone, and then actually like really precise little lines. And practice doing those lightly, practice doing those dark. You're also going on to do a grayscale. Doesn't need to be fancy, just because you can get quite dark with it, but don't worry about that. Just do a bit of a grayscale. Take your kneaded eraser and figure out what you can erase fully. How dark can you go before you can't erase it fully? So like here I can pretty much erase that fully. That's getting a little bit left. And over here it's leaving a lot more. And if I rotate my eraser, and it's not really possible to completely get rid of it over here. So you're going to want to figure out where that point is. It's somewhere around here for me, for my Conte, my eraser, that you can erase it completely. And you're going to try to target that. You don't want to be constantly doing dark lines like over here. You want to be doing light lines until you're 100% confident where you want to put that mark. So in the portfolio requirements for the animation program at Sheridan, they ask for just line. They don't want to see shading. But don't get too hung up on that. The best way to figure out your proportions is to not use line, but use tone. Not as in a a way of shading it, but as a way of blocking out the figure. So with this figure here, I'm going to do the whole thing in about 15 seconds. Voila. Not very detailed, obviously. So now we can take this sort of shadow shade, I don't know what you would want to call it, this smoky kind of effect. And we're going to go in and we're going to take a look at our proportions. We're going to say the rib cage is going to come out a little bit more. This is going to go here, and the leg's coming off of that. So this section here, going to cut that back. We're not going to worry about the line, just thinking of mass. If you do a line, that's fine, don't worry about it. Just keep it light so that you can erase it back if you need to. Because you can always go darker, you can't go lighter. And as we're going to go through this, we're going to just slowly get a little bit more precise, depending on how much time we're working with. And we're going to get into like the small details like the hand. We're going to get the sort of shape of the palm. We're going to get the fingers coming off of that. There's a bit more mass on the other fingers, and then peek around the other side. And don't forget the thumb. So you can get sort of precise. And see, now focusing on that, I've gone much, much darker because I'm bringing my Conte more on point, and it'll create a darker line. So you have to be really careful of that when you're trying to do precise things. And I shouldn't be worrying about the hand, I should be worrying about the rest of this. So just be cognizant of your habits there. And as you go along, you'll get a little bit more sure of where things are. And you can start bringing in light lines, if that's where you want to go with it, to define the form. Not the outline, but the form. Just slowly bring in more detail after you've already figured out the major proportions using just tone. And look here, this is not correct. The head comes, the hair at least, comes over here. And then the neck and the top of the head. So this line here was wrong, but it's light. So I can just redefine it and even take my eraser, and then voila, nobody knows what happened. And even if you're getting like a little chicken scratchy, as long as your lines are light, and by chicken scratch I mean like going over the lines multiple times. As long as the lines are light, you can then say, I've got this thing which I've gone over a few times, and then say it's like, okay, I'm confident this is the line, so you're just going to go in, make a single continuous line that's darker, which will be your final line. And you can play with how dark you're making the lines to give atmospheric perspective and all that stuff. But that's sort of out of the purview of using just the Conte. Oh, my arm's getting tired. I have to reach up to do this. And little details become a lot more obvious where they should go once you've figured out the larger masses. And you don't even need to be confident about where you're placing the larger masses. You just place down the tone of it. Then you can refine that without having to just dive into that final line work right away. And if you're not confident where you're placing those lines, it's going to show. And if you get them wrong, that's really going to show. Face isn't very good, but you get what I mean. Okay, so that's the basics of it. I'm going to go through one more demo, just with a different pose, just to show the technique, and I'm not going to talk over it.